I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the founder of women's football outlet, The Halfway Line, Jamie Spangher. How you doing, Jamie? I heard you're back in Australia.
Leanne, I'm very good. I can't complain. It's a little bit late, but I'm excited to chat all things women's football with you, and obviously a big game for the Aussies and the English heading into this international break, which is hilarious because anyone that knows me knows I have been living in England for the last 2 years. I'm now in Australia, and of course the Matildas are playing in England, so classic. But let's chat about it.
Always the way. What's the time difference there now? So my best mate lives in South Korea, so I know she's on like a 9 hour, but the clocks went back last
Yeah.
weekend.
I think it's 11 now, 11
Okay.
hours. Yeah, so not it could be worse, hey.
So Jamie, I had you on my show. We've spoken before after the Champions League final. It was fantastic. Your knowledge was really, really good. The insight was so good. For those that don't know you, Jamie, talk to me about the halfway line.
Yeah, so I founded the Halfway Line at the back end of 2023 as an independent women's football outlet, and our basically it was a philosophy that I just kind of created on my own as a blog. It was basically from my dorm room in Dublin. I was on an exchange semester, and I wanted to create a platform to talk about women's football outside of the average transfer news, match reports, because that's what we were getting after the Euros, and it felt like there was a real space for, telling stories about players and officials, coaches, and everyone involved in the game. And there was a real gap in that. So it's grown now. It's still an independent outlet. We're a volunteer outlet ran by a group of about 25 passionate writers. So we have a podcast, we're online and we're on across social medias as everyone is. But yeah, the philosophy is we kind of our big mantra is women's football is breaking through the ceilings, but the growth there, it's not even reached the halfway line and there's still plenty to go. So yeah, very, very proud of it and I'm very proud of what it's grown to be.
I like how you threw that in there. It hasn't even reached the halfway line. Nice little plug on the actual podcast. Now you're in Australia, and obviously the Women's World Cup was in Australia and New Zealand. I had Johan De Juro on a couple of weeks ago, and I spoke to him about the influence having a major tournament in Switzerland had on the country and the growth. And that is my least favorite word. I talk about it all the time, the growth of the women's game, growth of the women's game. When are we going to say, actually, no, we're here and we're here to stay? Do you know what I mean? So what's it been like in Australia, do you think, since the World Cup?
Honestly, the 2023 World Cup was a fever dream for all Australians, and especially like as a women's football fan growing up and knowing we were hosting that World Cup, I thought there's a real potential here, but I'm a little bit worried about whether the country is going to get on board because living in England has been a fever dream because it's the number one sport. Everyone lives and breathes football. It's everyone is just they love the game, and here in Australia, it's probably fifth or sixth most popular sport. People don't breathe it as much, but what that World Cup did for football, and not just women's football, but football in this country is just astronomical, and it's Australia's team. The Matildas have become the Australia's team. If you walk down the street and you speak to anyone and you say, name me an Australian footballer, you don't have to specify women's. It'll be Sam Kerr or it'll be Steph Catley. Like this team has just changed the scope of the sport, and that World Cup was just able to kind of grow it out. And they've played every game they've played since that World Cup has been sold out. So yeah, it's been really nice to see. I still wish there was more growth for the women's game on the domestic level in the competitions in the A League and the league. But for a national team, the way that the country's kind of wrapped their arms around it, it's really beautiful to see for someone that's been a football fan but not had that growth in my own country.
It's funny as well because before like the kind of leagues times changed and when they were, everyone used to go to Australia and play in the A League. It used to be some of us went to Cyprus, some people went to Japan, and people loved being in Australia because it's a fantastic country, but also they got to be on the beach on Christmas. I remember when a lot of the girls like Carly Telford when we were in England, they went over and played there. There was a lot of players that went over and played there during that time. But now, obviously, with regards to more money and the contracts being longer term, which is better, but it's obviously stopped a lot of talent from going over there. Now, Australia beat Wales on Saturday at the weekend. They were party poopers because it was all about Jess Fishlock's last game, obviously. But like, what did you make of the game overall from Australians' perspective?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a good test because I think, Wales obviously came off the back of a historic summer, disappointing performance-wise at the Euros, but it was a big momentum push for them as well. It was almost similar to what we had in 2023, and obviously there's a big momentum of Jess Fishlock's retiring game. I really think that Jess Fishlock retiring against Australia as well is just poetic because the best football I got to see her play growing up was in Australia. I felt like that was a nice moment. She said that herself. But in terms of Matilda's point of view, I think this was the first game I saw under Joe Montemurro where there were a lot of moments of growth growth where I thought, okay, I can kind of see the direction he's heading with this team. And I almost feel bad for him because he's had, I think, only 4 or 5 international windows before a home Asian Cup to kind of adjust this new team, right? We've always spoken in Australia about the golden generation. It's your Sam Kerrs, your Caitlin Fords, your Steph Catleys, your Katrina Gorries. It's coming to the end of that. So the biggest ask of Joe Montemurro is what's next in this Matildas team? And I think in this Wales game, that's what we really saw. We saw stars like Wini Heatley. She was player of the match and she was absolutely solid in the centre of the park. So I think that the Wales game it wasn't a shiny performance. It wasn't the best by any means or any stretch at all. But it's the foundations of something. And I think as a Matildas fan and a women's football journalist, I see what Joe Montemurro is building.
Yeah, it's funny because I wanted to ask you about Joe Montemurro because I was a bit gutted that he came to Juventus just after I'd left because I've heard like when he left Arsenal, the players were like, they go online and I know a lot of people do talk lip service and just say what they want everyone to see on socials. But I think with Joe Montemurro, I genuinely think when he left Arsenal, the players did feel it. Now, I've heard a lot of good things about him. I've met him. He's a really nice guy. My only issue with him is he gets these massive jobs, Juventus, Lyon, Arsenal, but he doesn't win. Like,
Mhm.
and I don't get how he seems to get like he was at Lyon for not what a year, and
Yeah.
now he's gone to Australia. He's gone back home, and I do like him, but like, what is it that you think that he has that like people are attracted to in that way? Because, like I said, I think he's a nice guy. I think he's a good coach, but I just don't think he wins.
I completely agree. I think, especially from a Lyon perspective, that was a colossal failure that season because of just the talent they had in the squad. Obviously, they didn't do what they wanted in the Champions League. Same with Juventus and at Arsenal as well. They got that first league title. But what Joe Montemurro is so good at is the macro. And I think if you look at it from an international point of view, is when he's at a club level, he really struggles in those micro environments where there's a tiny little tactical change. Okay, how do I implement this to get the players to do what I want to do? And how do I kind of fix these really micro scale things? As a macro manager, I've always kind of applauded him as one of the best in the game because he's so good at the whole scale things. And I think if you dial that back to a club level, Arsenal needed Joe Montemurro to kind of fix what was going wrong. And he did because he was very good clubman. He's very good with people. He's a people manager. And then Jonas Eidevall had to come in to kind of fix the tactical sides that maybe the holes were caused. And you can almost see that as a pattern in Joe Montemurro's managerial career. When a team's beginning to kind of fall apart a little bit on the broader scale, the macro level, he comes in to kind of bring in the culture, bring the team together. Let's kind of create the culture around this side. And I think that's what went wrong at Lyon is they're not a culture club. They've got the players they need to be winning as much as they can. So for Australia, you've got a very good squad of a lot of good players, but you're not the best squad in the world. You need something else to click. And I think that's what Tony Gustafsson lacked. So from like an Australian point of view, I was really, really happy for this appointment, but I can understand at a club level, I think he just lacks those micro things. But I think the macro, the bigger picture ideologies, how do we want to play football and how do we want to implement everyone into this squad is so important on an international scale.
Jamie, what an answer. Macro managing. I've learned something new today. And I think you're spot on because I think it works the other way as well. Like Vlatko Andonovski, when he was with the US Women's National Team, he didn't work well in an international environment, but he's thriving at club level. So I think for some managers, it can work in different ways. It's a shame. I've always said you can't blend all the managers all together. Taking a little bit from this manager tactically, taking a little bit from that man management from that manager. But that is such a great point. Now I know you're all the way in Australia, but England play against Australia in the next game on Tuesday. Now, what do you expecting from this game? Because as we know at the weekend, England lost against Brazil. Brazil were a very, very good side. Very, very good side. I watch a lot of those players in the NWSL and they're flying. So, like, what can we expect from this game? Because always a bit of a spicy affair, but I think England have usually come out on top.
Yeah, honestly, I am dreading any of the flashbacks I'm going to get from the World Cup semi-final because that was awful. But yeah, no, I think this will be an interesting game because I agree, Leanne. I think that people, especially England fans, are coming out of that 2-1 loss to Brazil and kind of getting a little bit reactive to this and underplaying the side that they played against. They're Copa America champions. They have some of the best players in the world. Like they put on a really good display with 10 players, Brazil. So you take what you can from these friendlies, but you don't overanalyze them as much as you can. So heading into this game, look, I think Serena Wiegmann, she's proven time and time again, she doesn't care what the reaction is, right? She knows what she wants to do. She knows what she wants to instill in the squad. And if they're losing friendlies, she goes to major tournaments and she wins them and she laughs because she doesn't care about those friendlies. So I think they're going to come in with a vengeance. Like England and Australia in sports, it's a rivalry across all sports. I don't think any player is going to want to lose this game, but just England have the depth, they have the rotation ability, they have the squad. I think that Serena Wiegmann has continued to prove why she's one of the best managers in the world. She doesn't lose major tournaments. So, yeah, I think this will be a big challenge for Australia. A loss to Panama this year, a really close loss, win over Wales. I just think this is an England squad that have come off the back of back-to-back Euros and have the ability to just rotate devastatingly.
What we saying then, prediction wise, no sitting on the fence.
I like, look, everyone I know is going to yell at me, but I got to say, I'll go 3-1. I think Sam Kerr will sneak one in, but 3-1 England.
Okay, okay, fair play, fair play. Now I know you're a Gooner, you're an Arsenal fan. Not been the greatest of starts for Arsenal, which hurts me. We've got Hannah Blundell on the show, and as everyone knows, I'm a Man United men's fan, but the women's team is Arsenal. And the Villa game is the one that hurts me the most, to be honest. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100% that. I think that these are the ties that Arsenal historically have struggled with. It's these kind of close encounters against mid-table teams, and that's where they trip up, and that's where a team like Chelsea doesn't trip up. I think that a lot of Arsenal's performances this season have maybe deserved a bit more, and Chelsea's have deserved less, but champions do what champions do, and I hate that saying because I think, look, if you're playing unattractive football, it's so frustrating to watch a team win, but Arsenal can't get over the line right now, and I did say over the summer, Leanne, I was worried because last season, Arsenal had this massive narrative behind them. It was okay, they've got the interim head coach, they've had a bit of a disaster start. How do they, ride the fairy tale all the way to Lisbon and win the Champions League? And they're going into this season without that. And I don't want to say it's all down to one player, but someone like Leah Williamson being down is massive for Arsenal. Like she's not only a leader, but she's so integral in the build-up. They lose a massive progressive passer, and Renee Slegers doesn't budge with her starting 11. So I just think right now it just feels like the players are playing at 70% rather than 100%. And I think something needs to click. The international break couldn't have been better timed, in my opinion. I think those players needed to go away, refresh, and come in with a fresh mind and just say, okay, we need to start getting 3 points on the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a devastation, but as you say, like in the WSL, when you drop points against teams like Villa, with all due respect, Chelsea just don't do that. I still think Chelsea are going to win the WSL. I think pushed by City. Now, Uma Gurav has predicted Man United women are going to win the league. I couldn't believe a lot of people agreed with her on my Instagram. It was a lot of banter between us because she threw it out of nowhere on a Monday morning when I just got off of a flight. Like, I was literally in shock. I was like, are you okay? Like, what? So, what are your predictions on this season?
I saw that as well and I was laughing. Honestly, I think United are a fantastic squad. I just don't think they have the depth to sustain it, especially because they're in Champions League. I just don't think I see Chelsea flopping right now. I think that they're going to go all the way to the end. They're actually playing better football. They've started improving their performances. And Sonia Bonpastor saying, okay, I want to play a back five or a back three with two wing backs, and that's beginning to work. So I think she's thinking future proof. How do I beat these Champions League teams and go all the way? So I do think Chelsea will landslide the WSL.
Well, Jamie, thanks so much for joining me all the way from Australia. I know it's late for you there, so go and get some sleep and can't wait to have you on again soon.
Thanks as ever, Leanne. Have a good one.